Hi everyone, welcome to Blackness. My name is Cheyenne Kali. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the importance of humanizing artists. As I continue through my musical journey, I'm noticing some commonalities between many of the artists that I love. One of the many things is that there was so much pressure put on them, specifically the artists from the 80s, to have that ever present and to constantly be in the view of the world. When you think about it, a lot of these artists were releasing albums year after year with little to no time between the albums and the tours. So artists would go into the studio to create their first album, release it, and then tour behind it for an extensive period of time, especially if the album was a huge success. So they would tour for months and months and months. And then when they finally had a chance to breathe, they'd go back into the studio. So it's kind of like this constant hamster wheel, as it's been called many times, of album tour. And I've realized that must have caused a whole lot of mental and physical turmoil on these artists. And when I think about that, it kind of just hurts my heart a little bit to know that that was the experience of so many artists, and they had to bear that without anyone really knowing, because this was before social media and this was before the conversation of mental health was at the forefront, So mental health still has a whole lot of stigma around it, but it's definitely gotten better over the years. But to think about the 80s and how little mental health was prioritized as a society, it's just a little bit jarring to think about. So I just wanted to kind of touch on and discuss the importance of humanizing artists and the importance of having empathy, having grace, and just allowing artists to be human, because it can't be easy to live out your life experience publicly. So yeah, I just want to talk about that today, and I hope it's an insightful discussion. I hope you guys are able to understand where I'm coming from, and if you have any feedback or if you have anything to say on this topic, please feel free to comment. Without further ado, let's get into this discussion. The reason this video idea came about was really from my study of Bon Jovi. I started paying attention to listening to their music in June. John Bon Jovi's been on my radar for a little while anyway, but I decided, okay, let me get into the music. Let me see what the music's about. But I quickly realized how hard they worked in the 80s. Oh my God, like they had 4 albums out in the 80s and they debuted in 84. So 84 was their self-titled album, Bon Jovi. 85 was their sophomore album, 7800 Degrees Fahrenheit. 86 was the big one, Slippery When Wet. And that's when everything pretty much changed for them. And they toured over 200 shows behind Slippery When Wet. And by the time they finished the album and put it out, it was time to go on tour. So they went on tour, and by the time that tour was finished, it was time for them to go back in the studio to create their 4th album, which was released in 1988, New Jersey. So they spent the 80s working hard. By the time their tour behind the New Jersey album was finished in 1990, they were completely burnt out.
It's refreshing for us to be a part. We've never done that. And to come back and be able to play and have fun again. It's like we have another 10 years to do now. It's the beginning of chapter 1.
Yeah, the break was a well-needed breath of fresh air, I think, for everybody. We really got burnt out by being on the road for so long. I mean, it seemed like we didn't stop for 4 years because of Slippery When Wet, the recording of Slippery When Wet, and then we went on tour for 16 and a half months, and then we literally took only 3 weeks off. And John and I started to write in New Jersey again, and then we went back into the studio in another 16 and a half months. I think that whole 4-year stretch, and also just the effect of the success and the different energies that come at you with that kind of, you know, we were riding on a rocket of phenomena at that point, you know. So it was definitely, we were burnt out from that. We needed that little break, you know, the respective solo projects that
I think knackered is the word here.
Knackered, yes.
A lot of things have happened to me personally in the last 4 years in my life, and seeing them, you get the overview that you better start paying attention to what's going on in the world, and by walking away from this for a couple of years, we're able to get back into the mainstream and see those things and relate to them. Very much so. The disillusionment that a lot of us suffered has come across in those lyrics, yeah.
We're just on this hamster wheel of exposure. I'm so happy that they eventually took that break in the 90s, just for a couple of years. They all did solo ventures and tapped into different areas of art, and I just think that was so important, and it just showcases the importance of stepping back and taking a break and the wonders that can do for an individual and for an artist. And I think that it takes empathy from their audience and from fans to be like, yeah, they should take a break. They deserve to take a break, and not to look at it as, oh my God, they're being so selfish, they're not giving us music, or whatever the case, you know, whatever the complaints could be. I think it's just important to realize that these artists are people first, and just think about how exhausted we get, you know, as normal people, on a day-to-day basis, and how sometimes we really just need to sit down and just chill for a second. I just feel like as the years go on and as I mature as a music fan, I'm realizing that it's so important to just give grace to artists and to anyone really, and that if we get in the habit of viewing artists as superhuman and as infallible, that it'll just create disappointments for us, and it's not fair to the artists or ourselves to hold them to such a high standard that we think that they don't need to sit back and take a break, or that they don't deserve to just think for a minute. You know, I've definitely been guilty of holding artists to too high of a standard and putting them on a pedestal. And it's taken years for me to get to the point where I'm like, okay, like, girl, these are people above all else, like, chill. And I still get super fascinated and excited and interested by them, but it's more because I'm like, they create beautiful music and beautiful art for us to enjoy, more than, oh my God, they're at a higher level than me, you know? So it's taken a lot of growth and maturity. I'm 24 now, so I feel like it only makes sense for my perspective on things to change, and for me to mature in my musical journey and my idea of these artists. There's been times where I've been disappointed by artists, where I've been like, oh God, I never expected you to do that, or I never expected you to say that. But think about it, we don't know these people. I like to get to know them as much as I can through interviews and various forms of media and art. But at the end of the day, I don't know these people as much as I'd like to, and as much as I feel like I have a pretty good gist of the kind of people they are. I don't know them, and I mean, yet maybe in the future, but I think it's okay to be disappointed, and it's okay to have expectations, but it's also good to know when to check yourself. And it's okay to sometimes say, you know what, I don't think I like this artist anymore, and to silently just, you know, I think it's just important to realize the value of artists, and to realize that they don't really owe us anything at the end of the day. Like, that's very important to realize. If an artist wants to walk away and put their hands up and say, I'm not doing any more music, then that's okay. Artists contribute so much to this world, and they bring such beauty and value, and just I just have such an appreciation for the artists that I study and for the artists to come, because you know it never ends with me. I think we just have to remember sometimes that they're only human, and to give them grace and to be understanding of what they go through, and know that we may not always have a full picture or understanding, but just to give them the time that they deserve to take a breather, and that it's okay for them to evolve, shift, grow, and change. It's not betrayal, it's just them growing and changing. And I know it could feel like betrayal sometimes, because they're like, oh my god, I used to be this way. Oh my god, your music used to sound like this. Why would you do this? Why would you change? Why would you? But you know, there's different factors that play into why artists sound or their style changes. And I think we have to be open to it. You don't have to like it, but just be open to it, you know? Be open to lyrical content developing, changing, and the music starting to sound different, or the artists who just want to hang it up and say, I've done my time and I want to take a break, or don't want to make music anymore, or I don't want to tour anymore, or whatever the case is. Just overall to be graceful, empathetic, and understanding of when artists want to make changes to their sound or choose not to do music, or you know, whatever. I think it's super important to allow and even embrace artistic growth, because it's just the natural order of things for artists for people in general to grow and evolve, and they should change and they should develop and grow as time goes on. It just only makes sense. I personally really enjoy when artists grow or when they evolve. Like, one of the best examples is Kenny Loggins. Like, I have gotten so much enjoyment out of his growth, and like from his first album, Celebrate Me Home, all the way down to his 1997 album, The Unimaginable Life. Like, that's 20 years of beautiful evolution and growth, and The Unimaginable Life has become one of my favorites, and it is my favorite, actually. It's my favorite Kenny album, and I just can't imagine looking at that album and being like, oh my god, I can't believe he decided to have more R&B and gospel influence in his music. Like, how dare he? Like, that sounds so silly. But I know some people think like that, and it's okay if they don't like it. But I saw somebody say that was Kenny at his worst, and I'm just like, oh wow, that's a little harsh. I think it's just important to open your heart and mind to new things when it comes to artists. You don't have to like it, but just be open to it, and then maybe you'll find that you do like it. Sometimes it takes a second to grow on you. It's the music that has to grow on you that always ends up being my favorite, so I just think that's cool. I know, on the surface, I'm talking about people who are very privileged, right? But when you think about the reason they got into the music was for the love of music, and all of a sudden they are so emotionally and physically exhausted and mentally exhausted because of something they got into for just the pure love of it. It's just kind of sad to think about. I'm starting to have a deepened perspective and a deepened understanding of how difficult that must have been, as glamorous as it appears on the outside. I'm just gaining a deeper perspective through my continual study of different artists and just learning about just how much went into the music and the tours and everything that we love, the product of it. A lot of times the product is prioritized over the person, which I think can be so dangerous. And it leads us to create unrealistic and unfair expectations of the artist. We hold them to unfair standards as fans. I think that one of the prime examples of this is when an artist decides, okay, like let's dip our toe into a different genre of music, and there are fans that will be outraged at that, and that's just so mind-boggling to me. Like, how could you be so close-minded to a creative being? You know what I mean? And I've realized that with Bon Jovi. I'm only on their 4th album, but I've done a lot of research and watched a lot of interviews and just noticed certain patterns. How fans got angry at them because the direction of their music changed.
To tell you the truth, I think a lot of the naysayers expected us to come back with the same old. And the same old was great, you know, then. But this is now, and I couldn't repeat myself. Partly because I'd be bored, and secondly, I really don't think I could write those songs again. You know, I'm not in that place anymore. I couldn't write Living on a Prayer again. It just, you know, it's not me anymore.
It's not fair to expect an artist to stay the same and to continuously repeat the same thing again. We all have an appreciation for music, and I could understand being disappointed when your favorite artist goes in a different direction, but I think that it's important to embrace change, to expect them to stay the same, and to put out a part 2 or 2.0 version of their greatest at the time work, or their best work, or the album that blew up for them. Is just silly, honestly. Like, how could you have that expectation? I get it, I do. As a fan of music, I do get it, but I have an appreciation for artists who follow their heart and don't prioritize commercial success over everything else. Like, those are the kind of artists I enjoy the most. People sometimes will get frustrated with stylistic diversity and genre transcendence, and I just, especially politics and social commentary, like, people get so angry when artists speak about what's going on in the world. And I get it, because part of you is like, okay, like, I'm listening to this for an escape from reality. Like, I don't want to listen to music and experience or hear about what's going on in life, because that's why I turn on the music, so I can escape it. But you have to understand and realize that they're experiencing the world that we are as well. So, like, how could they not write about it, you know? And I'm specifically talking about Bon Jovi's last album, which was released in 2020. And there were topics discussed, you know, COVID and Black Lives Matter movement. And oh my God, like, the comments I've read, people were so angry at John Bon Jovi for the words that he wrote about the world and politics. It's not even political, it's just like social commentary. And the interesting thing about that to me is that I feel like the people who have negative things to say regarding that album are the same ones who are like, they're disappointed that their favorite artist isn't on their side, if you know what I'm saying. I've just read some outrageous comments regarding that topic, and it blows my mind how you could be angry at that. Just to put a cap on this conversation, I'm sorry I was all over the place. I'm kind of a little bit out of the habit of doing this. Please forgive me for my scatterbrainedness. But this is just a stream of consciousness kind of video. I wanted to get out of the habit of being so structured with things, because sometimes I forget that I know how to talk, and that I do know how to just talk off the dome and just chat. So this was kind of like a little bit of an experiment, just to, you know, talk with you guys, discuss some things that have been on my mind lately. I hope it was understandable. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. I'm not coming from a place of judgment. I know I must have sounded like that a couple times, but that was not my intention. It was my intention just to spread the message of just humanizing artists and why it's important to do so, and just having grace, and just having an open heart and mind to the growth and evolution of artists, and to embrace it. Because I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoy when an artist grows and evolves into something better, and something, it just seems like they're more mature. And I have the privilege, as someone who enjoys music from before my time, I have the privilege to very clearly see the evolution. I can go from album to album and era to era through YouTube or through other social media platforms, I can just look at and see the evolution all panned out for me. Just it's all just available and accessible, and that's what I appreciate about being the age that I am and being in the current generation. There's just all this beautiful music and art at my fingertips. My perspective on things is shifting as I grow older and as I mature, and I've been a fan of music at the level that I am for some years now, and it's just so beautiful to grow and to change and develop and gain a deeper understanding of humans, and to take my interest in mental health advocacy and psychology and to couple that with my passion for music and to take that perspective, deepened and unique perspective, and share it. So that's really the basis of this video, and I apologize again for my stream of consciousness scatterbrainedness, but I hope that you guys took something from this video. I hope that it was enjoyable at least. I have to continue to do this because I really do get in my head about it, and it causes me to be absent. It really is just good to chat and to verbalize the many thoughts that go in my head on a day-to-day basis. So I hope to talk to you guys soon. Please let me know if you have any words to share in the comments. Don't be afraid to comment, please. And make sure you subscribe if you are interested in hearing more of my perspective on different topics. And make sure you follow me on Instagram at bopsnblackness. And I will see you guys in my next video. Take care, everybody. Bye.